Okay, welcome to the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, November 1st, a little bit after 5 p.m. My name is John Reinhardt. I'm the first chair, and I'm calling the meeting to order. And I'd like to introduce our other two commissioners.
Leslie Roberts.
And our other commissioner has the flu, or he has the flu. So he and I talked today, and he won't be in. So, number one, and if you need an agenda, there are more up there. If you need a COA from Ms. Maxwell, one of those excellent ones that she wrote, it's right up there. And I'd like to have, anybody would like to approve the minutes of October 18th. I haven't gotten them.
I don't have them either, so.
Okay, so we're going to postpone that. I thought.
Oh, no, I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't here for that one.
And since we don't have anyone taking
Susan
the minutes,
took the minutes.
right, but I don't recall that we got them. Maybe she emailed them. You can make a note to look for them. And do you want to record the meeting, or I guess I can always take notes.
Yeah,
it's
going to be recorded.
I'll take the
on that.
notes off the meeting.
That's what we'll do. Okay, we're going to postpone the approving of the minutes from October 18th. So, certificate of appropriateness review. Would you like to bring your chairs up and talk to us?
Oh. Sure. This is Peel in digging a hole.
Yeah, let me help you with the chairs. You good? Okay, good.
So, step through page by page, or we'll look at it, or questions, or how should I proceed?
Well, why don't you tell the process that you went through when you picked up, you decided to put in a new fence, how you got the ideas of the fencing that you made and the basic construction, and anything else that you can tell us. We're really good on fences. We've had more fences than I think any other part of the COA.
I've actually been thinking about this for several years. Should have done it 5 years ago, and then I have to go through this process.
That's okay, we're here for you. We're here for you.
Okay. I originally had a more open design in mind. I live right behind St. Philip's, and my view was like just up the hill, and part of not putting it in so far has been I like that view, but I do have a dog who would much prefer being in a fenced yard than on the end of a rope, and I would prefer not to be pulled to the ground, which I've done several times. So it's as much a safety issue for me and relief for my dog to just have some room to be a dog. So, talking with Ed in terms of the fence I had originally thought of was like, if you've seen at Marion Gate Farm, the boards are much thinner. But that's much more labor intensive to actually do it that way, and so I started looking at it and just came up with the traditional space board, the 2 rails with the verticals, probably 1x4s. The decision on the wood is a matter of cost. I went to Hunt's and said, okay, how much is hemlock? 1 1x4 linear foot is 13 cents. Cedar 1x4 linear foot is $2.34.
Wow.
So it's a significant cost difference and pine is somewhere in between. To go with the hemlock, it only comes in rough cut, it will not be smooth. And I don't intend to paint it ever, so it will eventually just turn gray. I'd like to do them 2 phases, simply because I'm not sure that there's time between now and winter to get the whole thing done. And also cost if I can spread it out over 2 years. So the first phase is just along the side of the house, facing Tim Hanley's house on the corner. There's not much of my property. I had said in here up to 10 feet coming up from the house, but I don't think we've got that much coming up from the house. It'll be closer to 7 or 8 feet coming out from the house and then straight down along the red barn garage and up to the front of the house. So the whole, from the front to the back of the physical house will have a fence, essentially a dog run along the side of the house. And then the second phase is attaching to that and going all the way back up to Summer Street. You can see the top photo, the page that says phase 2, the red flag on the post there is the property line. So we'll come up slightly inside that and then across and meet up with the fence behind the condominiums. And then across the front at the top of the driveway. It's actually a hill about this steep with, you can barely see the granite steps between the pine bench and the bamboo sticks. So we'll go across the top and come down and attach to the garage.
I think the photos are excellent.
Yeah,
They really show exactly what you're pointing out, and in the dialogue. I'm afraid I'm going to have to send everybody who wants a fence to you.
Or at least refer them to the COA.
Yeah. And when we talked, you made one of the best comments, and that in the fact that you said you walked down to the cemetery, which is within view of your house, and you looked at that fence, and you decided that was sort of a model that you had. And I thought that was really, just right on top of, historic ideas. And it was really great hearing it. I waited. And I told Marie about that too, so, But thank you. I mean, it's gonna look wonderful.
Okay.
I personally think. Is there anything else you'd like to?
Add in the drawings.
Okay, drawing, right.
And I think, just in terms of the overall process, I talked briefly with John on the phone. When I spoke with Kathy and we worked out, it turned out we had to send letters to all 12 people in the condos. We could not just deal with the condo association. But I got a call from one of the people there who said, Beth, what's this letter? Where do I have to go? What is this? The letter is just very cold and brusque and not immediately apparent that your neighbor is doing this particular project, and if you have any comments, you're welcome to come to the meeting, or some way of phrasing it rather than just, you are getting this according to the ordinance because you are 100 feet and the meeting is such and such, and it's sort of
Okay,
like,
so, I mean, we could certainly look at trying to warm up that letter if we can.
and if a copy could be sent to the applicant as well.
Right.
Because I didn't have it in front of me when you called. And then, again, I was just in talking with Kathy, so she gave me an agenda, but there was not an official notice to me. Whether she thought because we had talked that that was not necessary, or whether that's part of the process to make sure that the applicant does have an official notice of when the meeting is.
Absolutely.
We're always looking to improve our process, so I think it's important to know that.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no reason within our town of not having something that, appeals to people and makes them feel good. Like if you ever, it was like when you receive something that's so appealing, even the envelope makes your heart stop, And that started with me when I was 17 and I was getting draft notices from the military. So I know exactly what you mean. And it's strange, you're the first one to say that to us. Because, everybody else has this sort of not idiot attitude, but this attitude that, well, we don't, what we're doing is good, period. But we are trying to change things. It's a process and what we're working up against that's really, really, really difficult.
Comments are well received.
Yeah. Nothing was, we were never promised this was going to be easy. But anyway, all these comments were great, and I'm glad that we talked. And I'm glad that you actually brought this up, because we now have it on record. And so we can show your picture and your statement to people. So you're going to be world famous. Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
I don't think so.
Now your background, tell us about your background, about working in, you said, you told me that you were vaguely interested in becoming.
I have a bachelor's degree in history, did not use that, ended up in computer programming, systems analyst, customer service as my career. But I did have an experience in New Jersey with a neighbor. We had a 30-acre lot with 2 pocket lots that had easement over our driveway, and the back lot actually had in their deed the right to put in a driveway sort of adjacent and crossing that one to go directly to their property. And when a particular neighbor decided they wanted to do that, to put in orchards, which there wasn't enough space and enough sun, and I think the deed restricted them from doing commercial use anyway. But as we looked out at it, it would have been crossing stream. It's actually almost the headwaters of a stream that had a watershed association attached to it in New Jersey. And I put together a bunch of pictures and looked at the statistics from the Stony Brook Millstone watershed findings. And I used to do monitoring of stream water. So I put together this whole thing to send to the New Jersey Department of whatever it was at the time, and kind of pushed back, and they never did build a driveway. So it was sort of fun.
Victory.
Activist.
To do the research.
It's strange when people send something to the state. If you lose, they're going to come back to you. If you win, they don't talk to you anymore. You've established something. Although I'm not sure that's true in this state. But New Jersey,
part of my career was also technical writing, so just in terms of documentation for computer programs, and so putting together something more.
well, I do invite you, if you think about it. I know that you're in the garden club already, and you're very, very busy with your time. But if you'd like to think more.
For the next 2 years, I will start.
Congratulations.
So, if you'd like to be a substitute when we have somebody, that would be great. Think about it, because we really need people like you who understand the process, whether it's in a different state or not. I know Gordon was very active in the historic preservation over New Jersey, and he has stories that just sort of, you know, will burn through your ears, like, they did what? So, good.
Well, can
Okay.
I circle back to your application? I know you said that you did not want to paint the fence, but you would like to let it weather naturally. Would you put any type of sealant on it to protect it from erosion or decaying of any sort, or?
It's not been my experience that it's really necessary. The aging process, the hemlock doesn't deteriorate. And what I had planned was to put pressure treated posts in the ground and cap them off with the hemlock boards so that they look, so all weather's the
Uniform,
same. There's a degree of uniformity there. And, but then the hemlock will be the pickets and,
How high will they be from the ground?
it'll be pretty close because it's also a dog enclosure.
Right.
So, that's,
I'm just concerned with you with, you know, just water ruins everything, you know, just.
Well, it'll have to be a couple inches.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it'll be up.
It's a slight slope, so the
I know
picture
it's
that I,
very, yeah.
they pulled off of the style of fences from, what is it, Tom's fences or whatever, up in,
It's nice, I like it.
Me too, it's beautiful.
Warren, I guess, there's a company there.
There's
So
a
it's not,
nice, right,
it's not gonna be a nice straight line, it's gonna be slightly.
graded with the,
step down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's slow.
I don't think we'll get to a grade and then drop the next panel and do that. It'll run with the
Gentle.
grade.
Slope,
Yes.
that would look nice. And is that a flat top?
It mimics the picture there and also what's over at the cemetery.
So I just got the picture of that.
Dog's gonna have fun watching the squirrels fly along the top of the fence.
Yeah.
Red and gray.
I have no windows that look out, well, I do, in a living room. I think, well, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not, Val as well, there are windows that look out.
Well, I don't think I have any questions. I think this is really straightforward.
And I think if you go with either wood, hemlock or cedar, that's just your choice, I think you would find appropriate.
The hemlock and the cedar are, while not exactly the same, almost interchangeable for this kind of application.
Yep.
So I guess we're doing 12 feet.
Well, I
Well,
think-
good, then,
I think you get an A+ for your application.
Yeah, thank you for being so
And-
thorough. You did a beautiful job.
okay, I'd like to
And I'd like
have
to,
a,
if with your permission, if we can use this as an example for others to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
good point.
Very good, very good, you followed all the rules to a T. Thank you. I know there are a lot, and I appreciate it, and it can be sometimes a daunting process, but we all do appreciate it, and it makes your process here easier.
Right. Okay. So the next step, what's the timing in terms of, if you approve this, I take it to Bruce?
Well, we're gonna think about it. Okay, I will entertain a motion. Would you like to speak it out loud so we can hear it?
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with, in approving the COA for Elizabeth Maxwell.
Good, is there a second?
I second the
Okay,
approval.
all those in favor, shake your right hand. Good.
Congratulations.
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 And thank you.
Thank you for coming
Yes,
in,
sir. Good to see you
Really
back.
nice.
spending the time. Very appreciative.
Oh, very much else. So, will I be able to go to Bruce next Tuesday when he's next in? Does the process move that fast?
The process actually should be Bruce first and then the COA, but Bruce has, you've talked to Bruce already?
He told me to come to you
So
guys
as
first
far as
and then
this,
come
what we're gonna do is that we're gonna take your application and we forward, I write the letter, and it goes to Kathy, and then it's sent out. And I will send you a copy, for sure.
Okay.
And,
Softly worded.
yeah.
And John, but she can start, even though you're going to send an approval letter, she can start whenever.
Oh,
she
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you can start.
needs to, right?
If it's not raining tomorrow, which I doubt,
So I just started using.
you can start tomorrow.
Oh, you need to get the building permit from Bruce, that's what you're saying, and you haven't
Yeah.
done that
Yeah,
yet.
the
Well,
building.
unfortunately, the town office is closed on Fridays,
And he's only in on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
so come Tuesday morning, be right there.
Yeah,
But,
it's
you know,
usually
I
not
will
Sunday
leave him a
morning.
message, if you call him from the phone numbers on the Wiscasset.org website, leave a message, let him know that you're gonna be in, so he knows that you will be here, so you don't have to wait around and waste your time coming out.
I have one last question, and you can answer. How are you gonna anchor the posts?
They'll be buried about 4 feet.
About 4 feet? Okay. You aren't gonna use cement or anything like that?
I'm going to put I was actually thinking the corner posts and every other one will get a dry cement sacrete kind of mix just poured in there that will gradually get hard and fill in, and then the others will get some rock. Every other one will get rock so that they don't heave and you can go up and down. 4 feet should be the low. Any well,
Well,
No, you're gonna dig a
don't,
lot.
don't come out there with a tape measure and measure every one of them to exactly 48 inches, but
it's easier to kick over a 2 foot down than it is a 4 foot down.
yes, we're not planning for them to move or go anywhere. Do you
Reason
have
I,
recommendations?
yeah, the reason I ask that is that we have a small little vineyard, and I've got a lot of experience putting in posts. And so when we first came, we put the posts in dry, but of course it rotted out. And then I said, okay, we can't do that, with falling over. So I put in the cement, the quickcrete or whatever, the sacrete. That worked, but it also rotted out. Now, I'm in a third style. Hunt's has this post mixture that is made up of different items, and you can see it. I have the tallest mailbox on Lee Street, and you'll see it. It's bubbled over, and you mix it by one mix, then pour it in the hole. And I was a little bit dubious of it at first, but I did it last year for our new grapes, and it's more solid than the concrete that's been in there.
Okay.
And I think it's really good because if something eats that, they'll just die, probably. And I think it's really worthwhile, and you can buy it, I think, in stores all around. If not, I've got the name of them. And you're welcome to come by and take a look at the post box. And you'll see, and it's bubbled over. It looks really weird. But it works wonderful. Now, whether that's gonna last, 15 or 20 years, is another thing. But,
I'm familiar with that product, but I haven't used it.
yeah.
I have been told that it was available.
Yeah, whether it's gonna work long enough, I have no idea, but, it better work well with it, or I'll just, my grapes are really.
Stage 4.
And the chickens don't like to eat it, so that's. So good, thank you very much for your time and your effort, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The three of
appreciate
you.
it. Nice job.
Thanks for coming in.
Look forward to seeing the pretty things.
Great. If we have all of us, it was like a
P,
sort
P,
of-
E, E,
With
P,
the polls,
as in Peter.
Say again?
what's happening with DOR's COA? Has he turned one in?
I haven't received
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that.
T on the end.
I don't know whether he's turned it in or not. I had a long conversation with Bruce when I got back from Arizona. And he explained that one of the situations that we're facing is that the previous CEO approved it.
Have a good night. Thank you.
See ya.
Good night.
He approved the demolition. And it was approved also by the time, that went through. What now,
Is there documentation of that?
what it stands, he has to fill in, he has to do the COA.
Yeah.
And he also wants to put in, from what Bruce said, he wants to put in addition to a building there.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's gotta get a COA for that.
And I told you, and Bruce has talked to him.
Yeah.
And Kathy has passed it on. So what I did is that I thought, okay, if it's done Monday, it would fall right into our timing for the 15th. If it's not done Monday, then it's really up to Mr. Jones. I mean, he has to have a COA before he does it.
Right. Another wrinkle, I mean, maybe it doesn't matter to him, but that property, that lot is non-conforming, so if he tears that house down, he can't put another house on that lot.
Well, that's gonna definitely come up.
Right. I know Les Fossil went by, you talked to him about it, and he offered to provide any, if he needed additional consulting, he would. I think that he's pretty determined that he wants to tear it down, so.
And I'm not, and the COA is gonna have to come up here again with us. And then it's gonna be either passed or we're going to send it over to the ORC. And then it's gonna go up the ladder to the different sections, to the point where, if he still wants to appeal it, and I'm not going to say right now what my vote is, and I certainly
We haven't
hope
seen
that
the
we don't
COA.
know yet
Right,
until we
yeah.
see it.
Right.
We can't do anything without a COA.
Right.
Yeah.
But I
that's-
would advise him, if he's doing an addition based on this tear down, to simultaneously submit his addition.
Well, that's what
COA.
Bruce told him,
You
to
need
actually,
good
submit the
drawing
addition.
to
Yeah,
know
because
what
if we don't
facade's
approve
gonna
that
look like.
submission, maybe he doesn't want to tear the house down.
Well,
Right.
yeah, and that's sort of the quandary that we're in, but it's really up to him.
It is, he needs to fill that out,
He's got the,
follow the rules.
To Pam's point, we should see if we can find any documentation on file from the last codes person, see about this.
well, Bruce does have it.
Oh, he does.
Bruce
Okay.
does have the condemnation, so if it's,
But that that violates our laws. That violated a code being that.
but it would be, I believe, well, that's what Gordon and I were talking about. It really depends what date the CEO put it, because our particular ordinance has been in.
He's only owned the house for a year,
Right.
and we have been in commission for over a year.
Okay. Well, that's certainly gonna make another difference.
Right.
So, okay, great. I'm glad to hear these differences, because, until we actually have the papers in front of us, we can't make any particular decision.
So the ball is in his court right now, that he needs to fill that out as best as he can to a T.
Right,
Like this.
Like that, right, the detail.
I'm glad you said that to her, because that's exactly what we need, especially with those
Right.
photos. And I know everybody has a different way of doing it, but they have to have
Yeah.
some type of really good
That's
example.
what good looks like.
This is what good looks like,
Yeah.
and this is great.
That's
Even
what-
I didn't do this good, or this well.
Okay,
Next on
how
the
was the
agenda.
workshop, old business?
Good, very good. It was only a few hours, so, it was,
This was a
Enough.
grant workshop?
yeah, the grant writing workshop. It was an opportunity to make a few connections, get a little background information. There's the Maine Philanthropy Center has a directory of Maine grant makers. If we ever want to purchase something like that, we could. I think it's good to know, and there are multiple opportunities for us to apply for grants, whether we're CLG or whether we're not. I think we just need to figure out what do we want? I mean, what do we need money for? What are what's on our list of things to get done over the next year or two? Do we want to try to get some money and have people complete the survey of the historic district and complete the list of contributing properties versus non-contributing properties? Because seems like we have the list, but a lot of those properties never were actually researched, right?
Right. We would need
I remember
that.
when
We need for-
MDOT
yeah.
came through here,
Hmm?
came here at first, and they had their entire troop, and they pulled out a document which showed all the contributing and non-contributing.
They're wrong on that, though. They didn't do enough research. They didn't
But
research each
that was
house.
what that's what Maine Historical Preservation gave them, as that. And they used that for the garage, as saying it was, and this is non-contributing, and we're all going, huh?
Wow.
Because we were still trying to find out who had a list.
Right.
And as far as I know, that's the only thing. And what we really need to do is to figure out exactly what you said. What monies do we need and how we're gonna get them?
Right, exactly.
And we have to have something first. I think the survey of all the houses and things here in the district would be the most important.
Yeah.
And so if we could get money to enhance somebody walking around, so I think that's great.
I mean, I think the other thing, and I know you guys have had a discussion about this before I joined the commission about becoming a CLG. I don't know what the steps are in order to get there.
We do have steps. And in
Okay.
fact, I just talked to, she was in CEI, not Mary. A couple months ago, we talked about the downtown attitude too.
Right, was that Megan that came?
Megan talked about, it really wasn't Megan, but there's from what I'm understanding from people who have stopped me in the middle of, Shaw's
Yeah.
and talked to me about, that there is a movement to try and get everybody on the same page moving forward. Now, you and I, we all know that there's a definite division between people because of what happened with the downtown. So what we were trying to propose when we went into the downtown, we thought this was the best way to get things going forward. And I've also had conversations with 3 or 4 people who really are interested in how the Historic Commission is going to deal with it. And I said, absolutely great. I think we really do need to get forward. Whether people are angry about things, that's great, but our town is going to suffer. So let's go forward and find out how we can deal with it. And now one of the things is going to be other than downtown process. And I know we talked a lot about the CLGs, and when the Historic Commission from the state came through, that really seemed like a nice idea. But everything costs money. So that's why I was hoping that you would come home with the golden goose.
Yeah,
I didn't really
quite
expect it,
right.
but
I mean, I think the other challenge is a lot of these grants require matching funds.
yeah, matching grant,
So
absolutely.
whether we can do that in kind, like people volunteer and that actually counts towards matching, or whether we actually have to sell a bunch of cupcakes and come up with some money, that I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do a little bit of extra work to work on a grant application, but we don't really know yet what we even want to spend money on. So we have the information, we have the contacts, we have the background information. We should have another meeting to talk about what we want to do, what are our goals for the next year.
Yeah, but don't we have to come up with some type of budget that we need to present to?
We do.
Yeah, So we need to figure out what we want in that budget and how much it's gonna be. And that's why.
Right, but I mean, I think if we go before the town and we say we want $10,000, it's gonna be that's gonna be a hard sell.
Well, yeah, because you have to prove what you're gonna use that for.
Right.
So we need like $100 for this, and $200 for a mailing, and
Right,
for, we need like, $100 for like a domain name or whatever, or something like that. Or
Mhm.
we're just promoting the historic preservation on an annual basis,
that's a great idea.
because people come and go.
Why don't we, for our next meeting, if we're not reviewing COAs, let's start planning out our budget for
Mhm.
this coming year. And
Good
what
idea.
we want to target.
Good idea, yeah. So that would be on the 15th. And there's a lot more going on that meets the eye. Okay, great. Thank you for going.
Oh my goodness.
I thought you'd enjoy it.
I did.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna bypass this number B, or B,
The ordinance.
discussion, because we've been talking about this.
There is one thing I wanted to ask though, John. Les Fossil had suggested that we consider adding a demolition ordinance to our.
Yeah, I was gonna take that next, after this,
Okay,
but, in new business.
okay, all right, then we'll skip over that for
Yeah,
now.
and I didn't have a chance to talk about
Okay, so.
that. Okay, website, how are we,
We just got,
Pam and I each got our email addresses.
Thank you.
Because we completed the training.
I got my
just
email.
got them.
Did you get your email address? Good job, okay.
Now we can get
So-
started.
Now Pam's going to start designing the Facebook page. And as soon as we have the Facebook page ready, then we can get the postcard finalized and mail that out.
Okay,
So
good.
Facebook, postcard, and then we can start thinking about changes we might be able to make to our Wiscasset, our actual website
Mhm.
page.
Great.
Yeah.
Links and such.
I have messed around a little bit more on the COA checklist, and I let Kim take a look at it too. She made a few nice revisions and edited it a little bit. So that's in really good shape. The COA checklist that we've all reviewed, I'll provide it to you guys for one final review. If it looks good, that's something that we can give to Kathy, and she can give it out to folks that come in and ask, and maybe Bruce can give it out. But then we should also come up with an internal one that, just for us and the town, for here are all the things that we need to do as part of the COA
Mhm.
application, right? Because I think there's still some confusion even with our CEO and what steps people have to follow. They go to him first and then they come to us. He sends them to us, but he thinks that they have to come to us first. So obviously, I think we have a few things we need to work out.
Is there a launch date that we're gonna have?
I just got an email.
Yeah,
It's gonna take a little while.
It might be really good, for instance, we could get the newspapers to help us launch the website.
Yeah, it's just a Facebook page.
And
Yeah.
I know that
Just for now. Facebook and Instagram for now. That's
Right.
it.
How long do you think?
maybe we should aim for, think about it and see if we can aim for spring.
Oh, I don't think it's gonna take that
It's like a
long.
month.
Oh, okay.
It's just fast.
No, I'm just thinking, I gotta fly down to Jersey next week. That's all I'm thinking about right now. That's just, I'm like, gotta be a little behind from that,
I
so.
think probably a month or two at the
Yeah.
latest, the
Okay.
longest.
Great, I just didn't, I just don't want to, it'd be fun to make something out of it.
Well, we can get it up and add to it continually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so let's just, I mean, I
And
can,
have people
once I
know
figure out
about
my
it.
email address, because I tried to
So
download
that
it and I
people
couldn't make it work, so.
right. Really?
Okay, great,
Okay.
good. Sounds wonderful. Make sure that you keep me informed as to what's going on. All right, I appreciate that. The new business. Now, before we get into this new business, having bathed in the sun of Arizona and the wonderful degrees, 80 to 90 degrees, I came back, and I was glad to get back, but I did talk to the town manager, and we have to be really careful as to what we email and talking. Everything is public knowledge, as you all, you signed those papers.
Right.
But one of the things that was told me that a town up north was sued on this particular principle this year, and it was passed, and that the town had to pay off. Just be really aware, because they're gonna, if it ever came to a point, you'd have to do the same thing that I did with MDOT. I was going to be subpoenaed into the court, and I had to go through all of my emails, and I put it on a thumbstick, because they wanted me to print them up, and I said, I'm not going to print them up. If you want them, you can go look at them. And so just, I just want to throw caution into the wind.
Of course.
And this brings us into this new business, which is Alna's and Less Fossil and I think it's a really good idea. But you have to realize that there is a definite process we need to go through. First, the process is that you just gave us something, this past week. And so everybody really has to read it and get extremely familiar with it.
Right, the demolition ordinance, yeah.
And in order to get this into the ordinance, we would have to go through the same process. The ORC, the Board of Appeals, it would go in. Yeah. The earliest we could possibly get this in might be in June of next year.
That's fine.
Now, in saying that, you are aware in our ordinance we have a definite thing, and you pointed that out quite well. And that, my friends, is one of the reasons why MDOT got so aggravated with us, is that they knew, number one, that if they had to have a COA because it is listed, demolishment is against the rules. It's against our particular ordinance. Now, what I like, I've read what Les put down. There are some things that I like and some things that I'm not sure will work here. But I'd like to open it up for next week, after you make your statements about it now, and you can give us some additional information.
I don't know that I honestly, I've been too busy to give it much attention. But he suggested that we consider it, and he specifically referred to the carriage house that got torn down, and that maybe there are additional processes we need to consider or to flesh out our current demolition.
Well, you can tell Les from me that if he wants to know exactly how the process worked on it, and I will be quite frank about it. I talked to the owner of the house.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about this before. I'm just telling you.
I know Les would have loved her, but there is no historical building or object in the world that would take the place of a child.
Oh, of course not.
And I know you all know that. Now, the way it happened was the way that our particular ordinance worked. It first went to the CEO, to the code enforcement officer. The code enforcement officer went to the town manager. The town manager went to me. I went to the ordinance. And there is a part in the ordinance, and I'm almost sure you found it, and it says that in a state of emergency, demolition can occur. And there was just no doubt, because if we waited, hopefully it would have never happened.
So, I mean, I think we're talking about section 10.7.1.5, subpoint.
Yeah, I could get that out in,
I have 10.1.2, prevent without prior review the demolition or removal of significant historic buildings or structures within designated districts or designated sites and landmarks and other significant design elements. Is that what you have?
No, the building or
It's-
structure or important portions and features thereof have been determined by the code enforcement officer to represent an immediate hazard to the public health or safety,
Okay.
which hazard cannot be abated by reasonable measures. Now, I guess reasonable measures is the subjective part of that, right? Whether that building could have been shored up so it didn't collapse, is, you know, that's a discussion. I mean, that water's under the bridge anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, I think that, how do you get ahead of a structure that could become dangerous, could be saved if somebody takes a few steps to shore it up and doesn't wait until, like, the house, you know, just perhaps the house that we've been talking about. might be saved.
Yeah, it should have started years ago, you know, because from when I talked to them,
Yeah, it wasn't
they
like
were
it-
really, it was, she had already had people come in, and she had had three or four contractors come in. And in my experience, contractors are really interested in the work. And if they can tear something down, they can get certain pieces that they like,
Mhm.
and they can resell them.
Right.
And it's a monetary thing, and she was quite concerned, because she said, we don't have enough money
Yeah.
to do it. And then that's another process, do we have
Right.
enough economic strength in order to say, well, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I'll just rebuild it. Now, they did say that they were going to rebuild it, because it is part of the footprint.
Right.
And remember the sign that was up in front?
Yeah, I do. Whatever.
Yeah, and she had done all this work. Now, another thing is that I will talk to them and see where this thing is lying. Maybe they did really well in the stock market, but, and again, I'm really hesitant to say to people, if they're really, and as far as I felt, they were really honest with me. And I was
And they're nice
concerned,
people.
because, as I said before.
We don't want to be.
But I do like what Les has put in, but if you'd like to mention it to him, I'll be glad to tell him exactly what happened and why. And I think that 10.7.1.5, this is exactly what I went to.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't seen that B2, the building or structure that you just wrote about, the code enforcement officer, I would have really been reluctant to do it. But,
That building was like that for a long time.
yeah, but this is where I thought, and Gordon and I have talked about this on and on, because he is always for the saving of the building. But he agrees that if a life is involved with that, and they do have three children. One is in, I think, 14, 10, and the boy, I think, is 8 or 9.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a moot point, it is gone, so
Yeah.
we just have to move forward with that, so.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
If
Well,
anything,
not-
if
okay.
anything, I mean, what do we do about those that we see around town that are in danger of becoming like that? For instance,
I know one right off the top. of my
Okay.
head.
Water Street.
Great,
Yeah.
good.
That building is,
That building, I can tell you just by looking at the side of it, is going to fall onto Water Street, which is going to fall onto Sarah's.
Which one is that?
It's the one directly behind Belicious. It's the
that
blue
light
building.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The
That
coffee
is in
place.
severe danger, and I would like the code enforcer to go out there and take with him a structural engineer, a building inspector, and see how structurally sound that building is, because,
That's gonna be an expensive repair.
but it's in the historic district, and it's just being run down into the ground. What do we do about these houses that are being run down to the
Yeah,
ground.
what can you do? That, I mean, that's a good question. How much clout does does a historic preservation commission have? I mean, if a homeowner says, I don't have the money to do the necessary repairs, what do you do? I mean, and the other thought is, if we can say, hey,
Well,
look, we've got grants that
right.
we can help you get to help offset the cost of this repair,
Yeah,
that's where we could actually really add some value.
yes, I agree. That's the perfect resolution.
Right.
If there's somehow, some way that we can do that. I don't know.
I don't
Well, I
know
like the
either.
idea of talking to the code enforcement officer, and I'll talk to Bruce about it too.
Okay.
And I think it's Brown owns that building. I haven't seen him, and he's closed up his shop for, you know, at least a year, so I have no idea what's going
There
on.
are people living in the building, in the apartment, right? I worry about them every time I walk by that.
Yeah. I mean, I worry about anybody, including myself, who
Every time I walk by it, I
has to
walk
walk
really
past
fast.
that. Yeah. I mean, the first sign that your building is in disrepair is it starts leaning forward, and guess what? It's leaning forward.
Yeah. Well, you know, that 10.8.3, which are the violations. I'll just read you. It said, when violation of any provision of this ordinance shall be found to exist, the code enforcement officer shall notify the board of selectmen, who shall initiate any and all actions to be brought in the name of the town. So that's the part that we need to make sure. So I would definitely call
But
Bruce.
is that violation, those are violations about illegal buildings, structures, or additions, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that refers specifically to disrepair, maintenance, or, anything like that?
Yeah. And this I agree with what was said on the fact that it is a very tender situation, so to speak,
Yeah.
because we can't walk in and say, well, you've got to repair it, and that's
Right.
against our basic living principles
I
anyway.
mean, we've got 3 really beautiful or old buildings in our immediate downtown area that all really need new roofs, they are run down, and I don't know how we can encourage the owners to maybe it's as simple as writing them a letter saying, hey, if you think you're interested in our trying to help you write a grant to get the repairs or something like, I don't know how we involve ourselves and not seem really heavy.
Well, the first step is the code enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and so we'll just send Bruce in on that, and I think that's the best step. And I'm glad you said that, because that's something that we really need to start doing.
You know, I just happened to notice, if I can go back just a little bit, in regards to the demolition ordinance, I just happened to pass by 10.8.2 amendments. So maybe perhaps we could get that thing from Les to be an amendment. Because then it would only be, it says, they may initiate action to amend the ordinance
Well, right now,
within 90 days.
yeah, we're gonna have to look at this, because I'm not gonna accept it in the whole.
No, but I'm just saying we don't have to wait till June.
Well, no, it's gotta be, all the process around here, as you know, the wheels go very slowly.
Right, but we don't have to wait till June. We could get the ball rolling and maybe have it only February, because that would be like 90 days.
And we would have to put it up in front of the ORC, would be our next step. And talk to people about it,
The
so.
request to amend shall be referred to the ordinance.
But I think that's good too, the 10.8.2. Okay, good. Eddie, let me see, let me go back to where we were.
Next meeting. Are we done with new business?
As far as I know.
Next meeting?
Next meeting, I did put TBD on it. It should be the 15th, and I am waiting for, our man at 6 Hodge. If he comes through, that's the only one we have. And I've told Kathy
Well, we still have other things that we said that we wanted to
Yeah,
discuss
we're
as
gonna
far as
talk
setting the
about budget.
budget and going
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
perhaps the
Okay.
demolition
Come up with a
amendment.
wish list.
Yep,
And that will be for, that'll be for next time.
I think when I was here at the office picking up my email address, Kathy mentioned that she thought Mr. West was not happy that he wasn't on the agenda yet. And I don't think he understands that his COA isn't really complete.
Bruce has spent, I think, almost 2 hours explaining to him what he has to do. And also Kathy has explained everything. And if we can't hold their hands.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, maybe that's probably what he wants, but it's not gonna work. And I really, it's totally up to him. So. But we will talk about budget.
Yes.
And if you have anything else in the old business, will you please send it to me? And let me know what you want to do with it. So the next meeting would be Thursday, the 15th of November at 5 p.m. in a place to be determined. I'm not sure. I haven't found out exactly what's going to be available for us.
why wouldn't this be?
Hmm?
Why wouldn't this be?
It's just like everything sort of pops up. They have these little gold, stickers that they put up, and I haven't seen what sticker is on for the 15th.
We are,
Well, good.
we are, we're here.
Yeah.
We already got kicked out twice.
Okay, sorry. We're gonna have to leave.
We are.
All right, motion to
First come,
adjourn.
first served.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very, very much.
And where is the place that you say that you're afraid to walk by because?
On Water Street across from Sarah's.
Oh, you
It has
mean
the
where
Oriental
the rock place
place?
used to be?
Yes. Like you
I noticed that too. I'm gonna take a picture of it.
It's it's scary.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Stay well. Stay away from
Same with Gordon, he said.
Stay away from
Susan
Gordon.
coming back? When did Susan say she was going to be back?
Now, your website within
I'm not
2
sure.
months.
Oh, God.
The
Her
Facebook.
husband,
The
has
Facebook
cancer.
site will be up first.
Facebook.
Yeah, so it'll be
They
Facebook,
were-
Instagram.
She mentioned that she
pretty much
thought they were gonna
simultaneously.
have to go to Bethesda
And,
with the new,
and
there's
Facebook.
new stuff there.
And it's
And
your
it's really sad.
Yeah.
historic preservation.
Really sad.
Oh, website.
Anytime anybody gets cancer,
On
it's sad
Facebook
anyway.
page and on the Instagram site.
He's been looking, Donald has been looking so good that we just have to worry about it. And you know that she would have been the first one to send us email on that. Okay.
Alrighty. Good
Yeah, I
job,
already have a whole
guys.
bunch of historic pictures and stuff that I want to upload this as an example
So
for.
that's gonna be on,
Would you go to the
Facebook.
screen
I'll have to be lots of links.
and write out notes to a certain extent?
and it's not gonna be a link from
Okay,
the
thank
town.
you very, very much.
I should know, I have to check with Kathy on
It
that.
should be,
Yeah,
too, as well, I would imagine.
yeah, I would, everybody can get to hear from there.
I like to that other committee there that meet friends, they say that the town website's not